Yes, we are ready. Thank you, Father. And thank you, sisters, for coming in. And let's tackle this. We've been talking about trauma. And today I would actually yesterday, I think it was, or the day before, um, Cindy tagged me on something that, a post that on the portion, and somebody was asking about how to deal with conflict, and that is part of trauma. So I tried to make a comment and I couldn't. So then I thought, well, prayed about it, and I felt like the Father said, let's go over certain things, because we sometimes we don't know how to do things, and it's not because we're dumb, we're stupid, or something happened, that my brain just doesn't work. A lot of times it's just because we don't have the skills. We haven't been taught what to do, or even if we have been taught what to do, it hasn't created a new neural pathway, a new pattern of behavior has not been established in our brain in order for it to come just automatically. It's like brushing my teeth. I don't think about it. Driving to my house, the car just comes straight home. There's things like that. I can just be all over the map in my brain, but I know how to drive to my house. So we're just going to go over this again and see how we apply it, because it is something that repetition is what makes those neural pathways deeper and deeper. So things don't stay in the short-term memory, but actually do go into the long-term memory. Not only that they would be established at something that has to go beyond the long-term memory, the 21 days that normally would take you to create a habit. You need 2 more cycles. You need approximately between 63 and 70 days to become an automative pattern in your brain, because that's another thing. If some of this, any of you that are hearing this for the first time, if today, actually between today and tomorrow, 24, 48 hours, up to 72, if you don't do something about it, you write it down, you tell someone, you practice it, just make a little, mind dialogue. And okay, so I say this and he said that, or she said that, and then I said this, and you create your little pattern in your head, you will lose it. We have a very efficient brain that doesn't like anything that doesn't belong. So what happens is, if there's something that doesn't need to stay by repeating it, teaching it, doing it, then what happens is our brain says, don't need it, and comes, and the little Pac-Mans come and clean up anything that is not used. So in order for us to, and that's one of the reasons you hear somebody's teaching and you love it, and you want to tell someone 3 days later, and you go, oh, I heard this was so good. Hold on. Yeah, she said, or he said, and you tried your hardest. It's like, how can I have forgotten? It was so good. And we do, unfortunately. And it's because we haven't done, we hear and obey. It has to be, you hear first and you do. You have to do something about it in order to stay. So your brain, your little Pac-Man come in and it says, oh, I can't touch this one, and keeps cleaning up something else. So we have to seal that in our brains and say, no, I want this. I want to keep this information, short-term memory, and I'm going to do something with it. And then as you practice it, then it becomes from that short-term memory goes into the long-term memory, and it would stay there for a couple months, a month, maybe 2. But then if you don't do anything, if you don't continue it so that you have that final, it's what's called automatize it. It makes it automatic response. Then it doesn't stay. It will eventually go. So with that said, let me share my screen, because we're going to get really practical here today. And you all have seen me. Okay, so now I won't be able to see you. In order to minimize this, I won't be able to see you or me, which doesn't matter. I don't need to see myself. Okay, so we did this way back, how our brain dictates perception. And if you see on the left, if you're looking to the computer, it has the brain function, right? So you have red, which is the survival mode. If you see on the left, on the right side, you see that brain picture there. So that is the survival mode. And if you remember, the survival mode always asks, am I safe? That is the question that needs to be answered in order for the brain to say, yeah, I'm okay. Then it would go to the blue. And the blue is the emotional or the limbic state. And in that one, your brain asks, am I loved? Am I connected to this person, to the situation? Do I belong? And if your brain says, yes, I do, then you go into your executive brain, which is the green, and your brain says, I'm off the wheel. I'm not going. Am I safe? Am I loved? Am I safe? Am I loved? No, I'm safe. I am loved. What can I learn from this? So let's say, as you're seeing, right, for those that can see it, but for those that are hearing me, it says perception dictates intent, and intent dictates action. So when children are misbehaving, they often trigger our upset, throwing us into the lower centers of the brain. And that was the question asked in that portion, and in that post in the portion was, what do I do when my kids do this? I just get so upset and I don't know what to do, and I need to react in the better way. And there were all kinds of answers after that, very good ones, and people share their hearts. And like I said, I wanted to interject, and there was no comment placed to do so. It was disconnected for some reason, but I think the Father allowed that to happen, so I would do this today. So when I prayed, he said, yes, cover it today. And it says, so let's start from the bottom up. From a survival state, we perceive conflict as a threat to our authority, our ability to teach, our safety, etc. From this perception, we see conflict as bad, and those who create it as deserving of punishment. That to me is a mouthful, because a lot of teachings that we hear, a lot of places that we go, even our penal system, you can see that works out of a survival state. You are bad, you deserve to be punished. And if we go, and if the scripture I want to use in this is, perfect love casts out fear, because fear is concerned with punishment. So we don't want to live in the fear zone. The fear zone is survival mode. The survival mode is the part of our brain that we are like a little animal, is that part that does not think. So please remember that when you are in survival mode, you are not thinking. You are reacting, you are responding as you are going to die. Therefore, do whatever it takes to survive. But the bad part about survival mode, one, you're in fear, which means all you think is punishment. You're bad, and I have to punish you. When we go to discipline our children or grandchildren with that, or we think we're going to discipline our spouses or our friends, our loved ones, we are going to lose. Unfortunately, there is no win-win situation in survival mode, because survival mode, it's all about the beast. Remember, the beast and man were created both on the same day, day 6. You remember the number of the beast? 666, 3 times? Well, your survival mode is the beast. It is I, me, and myself 3 times. It's all about me. You do not enter into that equation, not your baby girl or your baby boy or your grandchild. It doesn't matter. It is all about you, because your authority has been threatened, your ability to teach has been threatened. So it's your safety, and you are going to prevail even if you have to step on everybody. So we don't want to discipline anybody from that. We need to get out of fear, because perfect love casts out fear. And I'm going to show you a little equation that the Father gave me this week as I was working on the portion. And I was like, oh, Father, you are so cool on that. And it's coming on the next, in 2 more screens. Okay, so that is survival. Okay, so if you feel that I'm going to punish this kid, I just had it with this, I am not taking this anymore. When you feel you're there, oh, sisters, and I'm speaking to myself, let's take a deep breath. There is nothing wrong with saying delaying discipline is the best way to handle a situation like that. If you feel you are in that, if you feel like you're all physical, you are just banging your hand on the, or stumping because stop it, this is not going to happen. If you feel you're there, take a deep breath and say, we're going to talk about this in a minute. I need some time. You can send your loved one to a place of comfort, not a timeout, not a place to punishment, not against a wall or anything like that. That is punishment. And that is not the way we discipline, because that's not the way our Father works with us. He wants the change to come out of our hearts, not out of fear that my flesh is going to get punished and I'm going to do anything. And that coin has 2 sides. It has the side that we see in most of our teenagers. And I'll tell you why we see that in teenagers and our children. Even when they're little, they step on and they say no. And you're like, what, you little booger? You're too little to respond to me that way. And so because that when we are, when our mouth has been covered or our hands had been tied, we are in survival mode. It's become a physical response to whatever is at hand. And that means I am going to fight you back, because it's fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. And fight, it would say, you're not doing this to me. 2, well, the little kid doesn't know, and it will just say no. And you try to move that kid, and it's like, no. Or if that was the case while he was little and he was too fearful to stand up to you, then when he is or she is bigger and that fear factor doesn't work for him or she anymore, then they will fight you, because then they become verbal and they will say, no, you're not doing this to me. You always, and they just, they get really involved in their defense, because they've been squelched for so long. They've had no voice for so long that now that I have it, oh, you're going to get it. All those years that I couldn't speak back to you, I will speak back to you now. So we don't want that. If we can get, mommy needs to have a time where I need to ask Father what to do in this situation, because I don't know what to do. What I want to do, I'm going to regret later on. So just give me a time. And then if you haven't done this, it's a very healthy thing to do. You can go to Conscious Discipline, and Dr. Becky Bailey has all kinds of tools. Actually, this is coming from her, from Dr. Becky Bailey. And there is what it's called a safe place. Your children needs to have a place in their home that they can go to, where they can have good skills, where they can have scriptures, they can have on the wall. You can find a little corner where they are comfortable, there, where they have probably their teddy bear or a nice pillow or a place that they feel safe. There has to be a place in your home that is not their bedroom. The bedroom is there to sleep. And when we keep sending our children to the bedroom, like, go to your room, we make the room a prison. We make the room a place that it is not the place for rest. And that is a negative connotation that they don't need. There has to be a place where they can go, they can have things. Like I said, you can put scriptures on the wall if they can read, or they can have things that comfort them, like their favorite. You can put their name and how much you love them, and be a place of where when they go into their survival state, they can say, I'm safe here. And when they're safe, they can calm down. And that's what we need them to do, is to calm down. And we need to calm down. So let's say you did not go there. You don't feel physical, you don't feel like you're screaming, you don't feel like anything, but it says, then you go to, you feel safe. So, okay, I can handle this. From the emotional state says, we perceive conflict as irritating. The offending person is trying to make our lives hard, and conflict as something to stop. So when, let's say you may not be in the place of, I'm going to punish this kid, but you are in a place like, stop it. I can't hear that anymore. If you feel ready to stop something and irritated, you are in limbic. Okay, so you may be safe. You're not in survival. You're in limbic. Limbic is still a fearful state that you're not thinking. Therefore, your executive brain function is not working at that point. And if it's not working, there is no reasoning. It doesn't matter what you say. It is not happening. I just realized I don't have external microphone. I hope this is better now. So that's emotional state. Then you become verbal. You always do this. You never, and we become very verbal in it. And our kids may be verbal at it. So if we see our kids throwing things, banging things, being physical, we know that they are in survival mode, and we need to calm them by letting them know that they are safe. And if they're little, you can hold them, you can breathe with them. And as you calm yourself, you will be calming them. So you make, and that sound needs to be heard in their little ears so that they calm themselves. If we put heart to heart, our children with our hearts are lowering down our heart rate, will lower down their heart rate. It will bring down the adrenaline response, and then they would stop from fight, flight, or freeze, or fawn. Oh, let me go back to that. So let's say you don't fight. Let's say you flight. Done with it, can handle it, boom. And we have teenagers that do that. They just they want to just leave. They get out of the house, or they go, somewhere, or they do something that is away from you. Then they're still telling you, I'm not safe. That's why I'm flying. That's why I'm leaving this place. So then you have also the freeze, and you see them like they, I've never had that with any of my kids, but one of my granddaughters does that. She just freezes, and you see her do this, and she will not talk. Are you okay? And no answer. And it's like, oh my goodness. So I didn't know what to do at first with her. And then I realized, okay, she is in survival mode and she is frozen. So you have to calm that. They're safe. You're okay. Let's talk about it. And she was little enough that, you could pick her up and hold her and help her to calm down. So, or the other one is fawn. And fawn, it is a very tricky response, because they would say, yes, mommy. Okay, mommy. and they will do anything. They're in survival mode. They don't want you to punish them. They will say anything and do anything so that mommy is okay with me. Well, that is a very, very dangerous place to be, because that way, well, obviously you're not taking advantage of your kid, but somebody else will. And so we don't want our children to have that response, or they will be they will be abused, and usually are the kids that are easily bullied, because they will do anything you say. Okay, so that was survival mode. Okay, so we go up to the emotional state. So in the emotional state, there has to be a connection. If the child isn't that, there is no sending them to a safe place. Okay, there is no need for that. The survival state is that the child that becomes physical is the one that needs to go there. The one that is emotional and limbic, just words, not physically doing anything to disturb, they are telling you, I don't feel connected. I don't feel heard. I don't feel that that I belong to you. So for them to send them away, it's actually the opposite. It's kind of like putting salt on a wound. It will hurt even more, because they need to be connected to you. They need to feel that they belong to you, and then no matter what, you are there for them. So in that limbic state, you can say, okay, let's take a deep breath, and come on, let's sit down here. Are you hungry? Do you want something to drink? You want something? Just try to break the emotion part of it, and let's talk this out. Let's go. Let's go to the kitchen. Let's get something. And just as you're walking, and or if they don't want to, no, I don't want to. I don't want to go anywhere. Okay, let's just sit here. I need to breathe. I don't know if you, but I do. And then you model that to them by you doing it first. Remember that mask. Put that oxygen mask in your mouth first, because in your face first, because if you feel like you want to stop them, you are in limbic too. So, okay, and say to yourself, Abba, you got this. You got this. Help me do this with you. And then you can talk. So, and I see the chat going, and I'm sorry, I can't see any of it, but I'll get to it after we finish with the PowerPoint part. Okay, so you talk, and then you make sure that obviously your child feels safe with you. They just don't feel connected right now. So you aid that connection. And then obviously at the point that they feel connected, then you can actually reason with them. Just like Abba reasoned with Job. Let us reason together. Only when we access an integrated executive states. Integrated means that safety is attached to limbic, and limbic is attached to executive. They're all together. Integrated mean together. All three are together, then you can reason. We can access our executive skills. That's where you have to learn what we talked about before. You've created those neural pathways, those patterns of behavior, and automatic comes in, and then you say, I can do this. I know what to do. Remember, when you don't know what to do is what sends you down to fear, because you are, I don't know what to do on this. And then you leave your executive brain state where your mind of Messiah is, and you go down to the survival mode or to the limbic, where the emotions are going wild or the physical is going wild, and you are just flipping and flopping like a fish out of water. We need to stay connected, all three together. I am safe in Messiah. I am loved by Messiah. I can handle this with him who helps me in everything and anything that comes my path, because he loves me. So when we are able, and he loves my kids, so he's going to intervene. He is here for both of us. And that brings me, well, I'll go into that one. So including the ability to see from another's point of view. At that point, I'm able to say, okay, this is what I see. Tell me, what is it that you want? What is it that what is it that you're thinking? Why are you reacting that way? Talk to me about it. So then as they are able to tell you, well, mom, this is what da 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 da, or he said or she said, or if it's a conflict between siblings or whatever it is, then there is an ability to really hear each other, because we all have a part in it. We're not all the same. So if I'm an introvert and the other one is an extrovert, we're going to see the same situation completely opposite, and it's the same situation. So we have to learn to deal with that. God gives us all that opportunity at home so that we can be better when we are out in community, right? So let's make our homes a safe place for us to practice that. There is no bad girl, bad boy in this house, okay? There's things that we need to learn, and when we don't do it right, we go, oops, we need to do that one again. And that's it. It's not, oh, you did that again. No, no, no. As many times we need to practice that one, we will. And that's the way it should be. From this more global perspective, we then have a choice. We can see an intense call for help or intolerable disobedience. We can teach new skills or punish. We can choose at any time to tap into the power of love and extremely neglected resource, because love does not punish. Love disciplines. And there are consequences to our bad choices, but there is a choice, and we can make that choice one way or another. So with that, let me go to the next one. So, okay. So in conflict, we have that there is usually, this is in the world perspective, there is a perpetrator and there's a victim. She did this to me, and that's why I did this. So we have, this dichotomy. Well, our Father doesn't work that way. Our Father sees way beyond, and he's a savior. He has been portrayed, he is a savior. He is above our situation, and he can see clearly. And I love when the angel appeared to, it says a man appeared to Gideon, and he says, are you friend or foe? And he said, neither. I came for I'm a soldier in the Father's army. So that's how we come into a situation. I'm not here for you or for you. I'm here to be a conduit for our Father's intervention in this, to teach both of you a skill. So I'm not for this kid or that kid, this, you did well, you did wrong, all this. It's like, let's see what happened and let's see what needs to be done. What needs to be learned from this? Now, what happens is we're taught that there is a perpetrator, a victim, and there are bystanders. Well, I was listening to Rabbi Foreman. I loved his whole teaching on that, and it's a long one if you do have Aleph Beta to watch it. But he explains it's not one of the videos, it's more on the premium side, and he is doing this dialogue with Beth, another of the producers or writers in the program, that how does that work? And he brings it from the perspective of one of the therapists that is in their group, brought that question, and they're bringing it from a therapist perspective into a biblical perspective. And what is it that we're supposed to do? How is it that God sees this? So what happens is we actually go from perpetrator to victim all the time, because let's say that I see, one person hurting the other one. If I do nothing, I'm a perpetrator. I just line up with him because I'm letting him continue to do what he's doing, and I'm learning and saying, I will probably do the same thing in another situation. And even if we don't like it, if we don't stop the behavior and we don't step in and use our voice, then we will eventually, with somebody probably that is somebody that we don't fear. We probably won't do it with somebody we fear, but we will do it with somebody we don't fear, and we will do exactly the same thing. So we need to stop that because our brain is learning behaviors. So we need to stop the wrong behavior. But let's say you do not line up with the perpetrator, but you feel like the victim. You're like, I'm with you. I don't know what to do. So then what happens, your brain also learns that one. And it learns that whenever that happens, I do exactly what you did. Nothing, you just quiet and do whatever I need to do, freeze or fawn, whichever is easier and better for the situation. So we become either a victim or a perpetrator ourselves. But the Father allows that so that we learn to be like him. And he always saves. He always has a win-win situation. He doesn't come to, hurt one or the other. He comes to teach one and the other. Even when he went to Egypt with the plagues, he says, I want to teach the Egyptians that I am God. So there is always a reasoning. It's not just for the sake of punishment. There's a reason behind the way he teaches. And there are consequences to our sin, and that's another subject altogether. But let's just take it from that elemental perspective of how would our Father, because they're both his kids. Remember, we're all his children. So it's not like, oh, he's for me and he's against you. No, he's for both of us. And he is teaching both of us something different, but he's teaching both of us. He loves us the same. If I don't get punished and you do, it's not because he loves me and he doesn't love you. That's not God's perspective at all. So there are consequences to sin, and we inflict that because we're the ones who make that choice, and we inflict that on ourselves. Okay, so the little simple equation that God was giving me was this: A plus B equals A. And I'm like, what? How does A plus B equal A? It could equal AB, but not A. So then he said, okay, A stands for Adam and B stands for beast. They are both created on the same day, but the first, the beast, has to submit to the second, Adam or man. Adam means man or mankind. Then how do I get an A out of that equation? Well, the only way is to subtract or take out B or balance it. And you have a positive B, you put a negative B, then you get 0, right? So think about this. We do need a positive B. We are made from the dirt, just like the beast. So there is a positive side of this vessel, this tent, this temporary tent that God has given me to live in, and I need to take care of it, and I need to rule over it, and it needs to subdue. It needs to be subdued. It needs to submit to me. So when that is the case, then I have a positive B, no biggie. But then the one winning over that is an A, right? So that's why I get an A. But when, and I'm just going to take you now to biology. We all have bacteria. So think of that B as bacteria. We all have good bacteria and bad bacteria. When the good bacteria is stronger than the bad bacteria cannot do any harm. It's there, it's kind of like nullified to 0, right? It's like, you can't harm me. But what happens with the bad bacteria is greater than the good bacteria, then we get sick. And then we succumb to whatever illness that bacteria will bring. So it's the same thing. We need to keep that beast or that bacteria from the biological perspective in 0, balanced. That's why, we need more probiotics, or we need to keep our intestinal flora and bacteria balanced, right? Okay, so how do we do that? How do we deal with this conflict? So where I had shown you before this, and you can get it at Conscious Discipline, and it is basically, you can, they have this big that you can put on the floor if you have little ones, and you can have them stand on the little feet. And so two stand here and the other one stands on the other side. And then it says, are you willing? And if they're both willing to deal with the conflict, then they say yes, then they move one step forward. And in the next step, it says, you wish well. Well, the first star is the star. And the star, remember, it was take a deep breath, smile, and relax. Stars are always smiling, and they just take a deep breath and they feel right on charge. Okay, so that's what you do. And then you go to the next step, and then you wish well. So I'm not here to hurt you. That's another question that if you go back into old videos, it would say, when the kids come, mommy, so-and-so did this. And you're like, do you want to help so-and-so, or you want to hurt so-and-so? And that's what wishing well is all about. I'm not here to hurt you. I just want to fix this problem. And when two agree on that, then they can go, one step closer. And the next step is what it says there, let's do it. So let's do it means let's give them skills to deal with this. Okay, so-and-so just took my grab. I was playing with this and he grabbed it and took it off my hands. So then I push him. Okay, well, so what's the skill that this one needs to learn? I don't like it when you grab something from me. Please ask me next time. So then the other child says, I don't like it when you push me. Please next time say stop. So then, you're giving them the language to deal with this. Well, you may have, somebody older and that you have not raised under this parameters and have taught these skills. So then you have them saying to each other, okay, what was it that you wanted her to do? Well, she, took this from my drawer or whatever, and then she broke it, or, whatever it was. And then what is it that you want her to do? Well, next time I want her to ask me. Okay, then tell her. And so they need to learn. Obviously, if they're not doing that in a comfortable and quiet, without hurting each other and screaming or pushing or breaking something or hurting the other one with something else, then they don't have the skills to do that properly. And we need to teach them, because otherwise they leave the house and at work or wherever they're with their spouses, they just continue the same pattern, because that's all they've ever learned. They never knew how to deal with that the way that it should. And the other one needs to respect and respond, okay, I can do that. So when you play this, and that's when I said to you, just play this in your mind. When somebody says this to me, okay, this is what I'm going to say. Are you willing to work this? And they may not be willing. No, I'm not. What does that mean? They are, and I'm not doing that. Okay, she's in survival mode. Then we know what to do there. No, she needs to stop. Then she is in emotional. So connection needs to happen. So, we as can assess the situation by what we know so far. And then it's like, okay, that's fine. Let's take some time and let's get together. And if they're older enough, this is something that was taught in a counseling session. My husband and I, when we first got married, it was, we will agree to talk this over at a certain time in a certain place. And it's like, okay, 8 o'clock, in our bedroom because that was the safest place. And without the children being able to watch us, we'll talk this over. And then you give yourself enough time to calm down, to think about it. And most of the time, between the two of us, I needed to resolve it. So I would go straight to God and just help me. How do I do this? Am I wrong? Is he wrong? And, you know, in that process, by the time we got together, if I was wrong, I would say, I'm so sorry. That was just uncalled for. I'm sorry, da, da, da. Or he would say, if he was the one who was sorry, and he would say, I'm so sorry. And then we, most of the time, didn't even have to discuss anything because we had already dealt with it ourselves, which is really, at the end of the day, what we want. We want them to learn to do that on their own with God and not having somebody to referee between them. And I think that's the last one I have. Yes, so I can stop that there and open it up for questions. In the meantime, I'm gonna see all this chat.
I was telling the ladies, this is so valuable because for me, I mean, of course I have littles as far as granddaughters, so I can apply this, but even outside of that for myself, like the things I learned how to self-manage, I learned how to do better as a leader for conflict resolution.
Yeah.
I mean, I put a note over even on Slack for our team. It's like, these calls are not just for, oh, I don't have children, so it's not for me.
Mm-hmm.
These teach you so much for conflict resolution for yourself, for your marriage, for your friendships. Just learning this conflict resolution is so valuable. So thank you, Simi, because I don't think, I mean, if I were paying $19.99 a month for this membership, this call alone would be worth it because of the incredible skills that you share. So I just want to thank you for that.
Well, thank you. And you look so pretty. Yeah, like I said, I wish I had learned this a long time ago, but the Father has a time for everything. And he has us learning what we can learn now, especially right now. There is so much conflict out there with even with the just whole thing with the vaccine. If you are, if you aren't, you don't come, you know, stay away, or, you know, all this stuff, and has polarized families, has polarized people at work. And we need to learn that, you know, when people do that, they are fearful. So where are they? What are the 3 states are they in? Survival mode. And if they're in survival mode, they're not thinking. So to say you're just not thinking and there was something wrong with you and da 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 da, and we get like that, we're not changing them for anything because they can't. Right now, they can't reason. The fear is my life. It's I, me, myself, and I'm sorry, you are not going to threaten my life. So stay away. And if they do that, just love them. Just love them. They cannot reason with you. So just love them, because there is nothing you can do at that point. Only our Father can do that. So, you know, even for that, you know, we need to learn. People can get really ugly out there, and because they're not thinking, if they happen to have a gun and they're going to use it on you, you know, so don't go there. It's not necessary. So it's just good to know these things. We need to learn how to deal with each other. Thank you for sharing that, Charlie. Anybody else? Anything that you can think of that you've been dealing with, or that you've seen and you didn't know what to do? And, you know, another thing before I even open that up to an answer, for you to answer me, another situation that is hard for us when we are grandparents is that we're not the parent. So all these things that you're learning, there has to be a way for us to do that with our little ones, that does not go against what mom and dad are teaching them. So that may be something that you can appease the situation the best you can, and then have a conversation with your daughter and your son and said, I saw this, how do you normally handle this? And then it's something that you can deal with them, you know, how to, you know, I want to be there with you and support you, so that, you know, create the safety first. It's very important that the parent cannot feel like threatened by you, because then there's no, you know, executive conversation happening. They will just react at you, and you always get into this, they're my kids, and then they'll, you know, they won't hear you. So you know, just tell me, what do you do? I just want to serve, you know, support you the best way I can when the kids are at my house, and I don't want to do anything that you wouldn't do. So then let them explain to you, well, this is the way I do it. So then, you know, depending on the relationship, you can say, you know, I've been learning this. I don't know if you would like to, if it's contrary to, you know, I just put them in timeout and they have to stay there until I say so. And you're like, oh, okay. So, you know, how do you convey that there are other ways? Have you ever tried this? I don't know. I just heard this teaching and I thought it was pretty interesting. What do you think? And then, you know, try to just nonchalant lay another way of dealing with things without saying, no, that's wrong, don't do that, that is just so wrong, you know, because they won't hear you if you do that. Okay, so now you can ask me.
I have a question. How would you recommend us parents who have grandparents or like in-laws that don't agree with this peaceful parenting method? How it, because that's been a struggle for us. You know, it's like the comments like, well, if that was my kid, I would have whooped their butt, and you know, stuff like that. And it can be hard because it makes you think, well, great, I'm raising a spoiled, you know what, and that's how they see their grandkid when they act out. But from my understanding, which they don't have yet, like their brain isn't even fully developed enough to know how to emotionally handle the fact that we're all of a sudden up and leaving and time to go. Or do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, it just depends. Obviously, every case will be different, depending on the relationship you have with your parent or in-laws, and how you go about it. But remember I wish you well first. Okay, so start there. You know, you are not, oh, that is very interesting. Okay. I remember when I used to feel that way, and I remember thinking, well, and then, you know, you can acknowledge what they're saying and know that that is something that you experience. And one thing I've noticed is, you know, so you have two kids, right? So one kid just, let's go, and they're like, yay, jumping, and the other one, no, you know, because, you know, they need more structure, they need time, and you need to let them adjust to the idea that they're going someplace. And you can say, you know, mom, or, you know, if it's a mother-in-law, however you call her, you know, that works perfectly for Kaya. But you know what? It does not work for him. He needs more time. And I've just noticed that. And what I normally do with him is, if I know we're going to leave in half an hour, then I little by little will say, you know, and they don't know time, but it's okay, because they need to start learning that pattern. You know, in 15 minutes, and you show him your watch, in 15 minutes, we're just going to have to go. So what do we need to do in order to get ready? And then, you know, they'll continue to play, whatever. Do you want to do this now or in 5 minutes? And then, of course, they're going to say 5 minutes. They don't know what 5 minutes is. They just don't want to do it now. So it's like, oh, okay, in 5 minutes, I'll be back. And then you go, and then 5 minutes, you come back. You still need to leave in 15. So you give yourself enough time. So, I just realized that when I do that, it works like a charm. He just does it. There is no fight. There is no screaming. There is no temper tantrum. So, if I can do this an easier way, why go the hard way? Where, they're upset, I'm upset, everybody's upset in the car, and we get there and we just like, life is too short. Just try to go the easy way. That, don't go, oh, because that is the right way, because that other way is the wrong. When you start doing that, then that person becomes defensive, like you're telling them they're wrong. But it's like, yeah, I know. I remember doing that once, and it didn't work with him. But I tried this, and this does work. And we're all happy. We'll get in the car, and just that's the best way. Because remember, we want not I win, you win, I'm wrong, you're right, or you're right, I'm wrong. None of that. We just want win-win. How can win this one? So you have to step out of what you think. We're not doing the victim perpetrator here, because usually one wins and the other one doesn't. So we want savior, and we go, okay, how can we achieve that? So then, you step back and ask, okay, what would you do? Or let me tell you what I've done and how it has worked for me. I would love to hear what you have to say. So then the person doesn't feel like you're shutting them off. They have a saying, but you are sharing your part. What do you think? And then they have, then whatever it is that they're going to say back to you, then, you continue the conversation. But the important is that this doesn't stop. We are wishing each other well. We're hearing each other. When you say this is what I feel, I would love. And then, if you're definitely not on the same page, you're still the mother of that child. Okay. So at the end of the day, if we get to that place where it's like, no, I will smack that silly because, and you realize you're not communicating, then you can thank them for, sharing that with you. Brenda and I have decided, we've made this decision for our household, and this is what we would like for our children to receive. But thank you for letting me know, and be kind. But she has to know, here's where the line. If you continue crossing that line, you are interfering with our household, and she needs to know that you are a household. And she is just a welcome guest in your household, but she's not the mother there. You are.
I love what you said about like this. We got to get out of that victim place and come to that savior place, because I think, and this is like referring to what Charlie said earlier, this isn't even just for parenting. Like this is for any relationship with any human being. Like that whole victim. I mean, that is literally every relationship you approach. And I think that's even like for us, you said it right there. Like that is the root really of any of our differences. Like we have all these differences in the way we want to parent, if we co-sleep or don't co-sleep, if we breastfeed or don't breastfeed, if we vaccinate or don't vaccinate. If, we do all the things opposite of the normal, and I think instead, like I think our parents, my mom is probably the most understanding, but in our situation, like my dad and, our in-laws and stuff, they don't take it like they're in that victim mentality in a sense by seeing it as, you aren't choosing to raise your kids the way I raised you. And my dad has actually said it. He says it to me every time I'm around him. If we don't eat bacon for breakfast, pork bacon for breakfast, or, whatever, is like, well, that's not how you ate when you were a kid, and it's very much so revealing that that's what the root of all of this is. They are in that almost in a victim mentality, in a sense of like, you don't think I raised you right. And then, we feel like we have to combat it, or then we become a victim. We're like, well, now you're just never pleased with me. It's like that is
Mhm.
actually the root of the issues. When
Yeah.
if we can respond in that savior space, like what you're saying, like, even if they're still in that victim state, we can stand in the savior state and bring everybody to that place,
Right.
like everything you're saying is just so good.
Yeah, move out of that equation. Let's not, that's not even a place. Let's come out. One thing that I love that, in quantum physics is called superposition. And what it is, you go above the situation. So the situation is right here and it's in your face. The kids are screaming, something is happening, and somebody's angry at you, whatever it is. So you go on superposition means you put that situation, you put it little in a box. You can leave it in a clear box so you can see what's inside, but you are here, right? You cannot touch me, you're inside a box. So you feel safe because it cannot touch you anymore. And when I learned that, in my brain went immediately to, we are seated in heavenly places with Messiah. So it's like, yes, I can put that situation in a little box and I sit right here with Messiah. So I'm thinking in my mind, I'm sitting right up here, right? I'm in executive brain mode right now with him. I have the mind of Messiah. And I'm sitting right next to him saying, what do we do about this? We're looking down at the little box and it cannot touch me. It is out of the reach of anything that can harm me. So therefore, I am safe and I am loved and connected, right? I'm sitting right there next with him. So if we can think of that in a moment of a situation, we can calm ourselves down because no longer the situation is threatening to me. You're inside a box. It's kind of like in my mind, I literally, I'm listening to this teaching and I'm making, I draw everything. So I'm making a little box and I'm putting this little like squirmy thing inside and it's hitting the walls, but it can touch me. It's like, you're inside the box. You cannot touch me. So, but if you can think of that, okay, I am safe. No, this is not going to destroy me. This is not going to end. My kids are not going to go away and, kill themselves, none of that, this is fixable. This can be arranged. This can be contained. There is a solution for this because you know what? I'm sitting with the Messiah, with the Savior of the world. And he loves that little squirmy little thing inside my box as much as he loves me. So he's going to calm down that little thing. I just think of what is the Tasmanian devil? It's like that. So he loves that Tasmanian devil too. And he's going to calm him down and calm me down. And he's going to give me the right things to say and words. But so when you go into that superposition, then you feel safe and you feel connected. You're there with the Messiah in heavenly places with him. So that is the important thing that we don't allow, because the fear is they're not going to love me. They're going to go away. We're going to get a divorce. He's going to fire me. All these situations that we think we are in danger, and we're not. We're not. Everything that we face, our Father has placed it in front of us to teach us something. So if we can think about that and just go into heavenly places with him, then we can all, imagine we can all do that. I'm angry with you, and then you go up, I go up, and then we see each other from cloud to cloud. We say, okay, this was dumb. Well, let's talk about this, sis. And then we can talk, because no longer you're my enemy, and no, you don't. I'm not seeing you like a Tasmanian devil, and you're not seeing me as a Tasmanian devil, and we can see each other, and it's like, oh, that was dumb. Okay, let's talk. And that's visual. God gives us so many visuals for a reason. because they are powerful. If we can see ourselves there, we will act as what we see. That's why everything, he took Moses up and he said, this is what's in the heavenlies, do it in the earthly. And that's why we pray, may your will be done on heaven as it is on earth as it is in heaven. We want this to look just like this. So that's a visual. And we are earth. All of us were made out of the dirt. We are all earth. So may your will on this earthen vessel be done as it is in heaven. So I want to be like you. And yes, that's a Savior's mentality. And we are all royal priesthood. We are all instrument and members of the army of the Lord of hosts. So we can do this. Any other questions or comments or insights or testimonies of what has worked for you?
I know recently I have found, her name is Ginger Hubbard. I don't know if you've ever heard of her. That's my Tasmanian devil.
Yes, so
And-
cute.
And
Hey.
I have found out that when they misbehave, I want to get to the heart of the situation and see, like during homeschool, I found out if I fill him up full of mommy time first, then I can do the big kids is way better because he's filled up to get him through maybe lunch. And then, so I've just found out that if there is a negative response, that is something that's going on with them. And so it's just been something that I've been trying to work on. And it is hard. That's what they were sitting here talking about. What part of the brain are you? Are you red, green, or blue? And I was like, and they were diagnosing each other on which color they thought each other were. And I said, unfortunately, I said, I do discipline a lot when I'm in the red, like, it's just like, ugh. And so my oldest, she said, well, we just need to do it slow. And I said, that's perfect. We just need to take our time, and just, it's a new way. It's a new way. So we need to give ourselves grace and be patient.
Yes. There's another teaching. They're really good. Actually, Dr. Amen, that I'm studying under now, he points him out and he does a lot of interviews with him and he says he's been using it for years, and it's love and logic. They are based in Denver, Colorado, and it's a great school. When I worked with the school system, they sent us there for training, and it is a really good, and it is actually Christian-based teaching, and it is all about love, because if you're in love, you can use your logic. So they don't use the brain state like Dr. Bailey does in Conscious Discipline, but it is the same concept. And it is all about, teaching moments. Instead of getting irritated and it's like, oh, why did you have to do that? We get upset if things don't go our way, but those are teaching moments. It's like, okay, here we have an opportunity to learn a new skill. If we can see those situations like that, we can be, a better instrument in our Father's hands with our children. Yes, Cindy. Visualizing. Yep. Superposition is good. And Whitney was saying, what was it that I read? It is so hard to move this thing. It just goes so fast that I lose it. We think we are in danger, and we weren't created to operate from fear response. That's survival mode. Yeah, and it does deteriorate very quickly. And think about it. What is it that that even from the first moment that God even appeared, an angel of the Lord appeared to anybody was fear not, because he knows that if we fear, vroom, we go down into that survival mode, and then we hear nothing. It's like we're so blinded by fear that we can't hear anything that you're saying, even if you're telling me something good, even if you're saying, I'm here for you. I'm so afraid that I don't hear you. I don't see your good intentions. So he constantly tells us not to fear, because fear really doesn't help us learn anything. It's a pharaoh. It's a constricting place, and it's a bad taskmaster. It's an Egypt. We're constricted. We feel like and then what comes out, is not usually good. But the Father allows us to be constricted at times and limited, so that he can, but those bad things aren't meaning to come out. So that's why it's so important that we are sisters keepers. We're here for each other. I may be ugly one day with you. Bear with me, have mercy. Don't discard me as a bad apple. I just didn't have what I needed at that moment, but that doesn't mean I'm bad. That just means I need to learn that skill. That just means I'm stressed out. That just means I just had a horrible situation at home. That just means, my loved one just died. You don't know what the other person is going through. We don't know in what shoes they're in. And we need to give each other grace and say, are you okay? And then most likely the person is going to fall apart and say, no, I'm not. This and this and this and this happened. And then you are going to realize, instead of saying, you what? Oh, well, that's just not the, and then we react that way. And that person that is hurting, obviously, if they reacted back to you, and that person is your friend, it's out of character. It's not like, oh, you finally showed me your colors. That's who you are. No, that's not who she is. That's who she has become because of what she's going through right now. So be there for her. Be there for me. Don't let me go. And let's love each other and say, yeah, we don't always react. My life is not always perfect the way I want it. And if you happen to be right in front of me when something just was, burst in my face, you probably are not going to get the cool and collect Simi. You're going to get the survival mode Simi or the limbic Simi. Who knows which one you're going to get? And all you're going to get is my past. Just think about that. When I get triggered, what you're getting is my past. That person that I have become, but that's not the person who I am, because that's not who my Father made. And he is working with me just like he's working with you. So we need to give each other grace and help each other learn from that and say, are you okay? Because if I'm physical, I'm survival. If I'm I'm in limbic. So let's be there for each other and say, whoa, I hear you. And is there anything I can do? Are you okay? And that just will give me a moment, or not, are you okay? What was that all about? Because that won't do it either. But if I can hear you, ask me that. And you have, Charlie, I've heard you do that. So I'm glad that you're still learning things. We all are, but I just want to affirm you, because I've heard you do that. Are you okay? So that's, you're a good leader.
Thank you, sis. Hey, I'm going to say bye to all of you. I get to go sneak and meet Brenda for lunch. She's swinging through town. So I'm going to go meet her on the freeway at lunch, her and Jeff. So love all of you so much. And you'll probably want to, Simi or one of you guys can stop your video recording here pretty quick and do your after party or whatever. And I promise to post this later.
Yeah, you can actually, because you're the one who started it. You can turn it off if you want to.
Perfect.